Today we're going to be doing a cooking class, but before we do the cooking class, I normally do a health presentation, maybe about 15 minutes. Um, Last month we got to talk about the 8 laws of health. I think Paul, you were here, and Chris, you were here. Remember the acronym? The acronym is New Start. You remember what N stand for, or what? Nutrition. There you go. Okay. E, exercise. That's right. W. Close. What do you say? Water. Water. S. Sunshine. There you go. T. This is a trick one. It's a harder one. Temperance. Yes. Yeah, that's right. Yes. A. What's blowing in your face? Air. There you go. Getting fresh air. Yes. R. Rest. There you go. And the most important one. Trust. Trust in God. There you go. Yes. That's right. So last month we went over the 8 laws of health very briefly. And today I did mention that we're going to talk about, once a month I'm going to talk about each of the 8 laws of health. So today we're going to talk about nutrition, but not so much in the sense of what we should be eating. Today I'm going to be talking more on when and how we should be eating. And then maybe next month I'll talk into what we should be eating. Okay? So does anyone know that our body has a clock? It's an internal clock. Does anyone know what that's called? There you go, circadian rhythm. Yes, the circadian rhythm regulates all aspects of our life. There's a 12-hour clock and there's a 24-hour clock. So some of the things that your circadian rhythm regulates is your digestion, your hormone releases, your metabolism, your energy levels, and your sleep cycles. So that's what your circadian rhythm affects. So there are some things that we do, it's called habits, that influences our circadian rhythm. So 3 of them that I can tell you is sleep, exercise, and eating. These are the 3 things that influences our circadian rhythm. So for instance, for sleeping, we know that you release certain hormones at certain times, right? So say if you consistently sleep at 9 p.m. every day, well, your body has a clock, and if it's functional, it'll know that it needs to start winding down, so release some hormones, say 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, and then you start to feel tired by the time it's 9, right? However, you can disrupt your circadian rhythm. So if you are not consistent, then your body has a hard time assuming when it's time to sleep. So your body starts to release hormones at irregular hours. So you may feel tired at 2 p.m., you may feel tired at 12 p.m., right? So that's why we need to be very regular with our habits. The other one is exercising. So circadian rhythm affects your energy levels, but say if you exercise every day right after you get off of work, right? Let's say 5 p.m. What your body does is that it's going to help you out, especially if you already built in the habit of exercising every day at that same time. Your body's going to release a lot more energy at that time for you to not only want to exercise, but have the ability to exercise as well. But if we didn't build that habit in, then it's going to be very, you're not going to want to exercise. You're not going to have any energy to do it. So that's why it's very important to have that habit, so that way your body can help you out and give you that extra push that's necessary for you to do the exercise the next day, right? And so the third one is eating, right? So if you are regular with your eating habits, if you have a functional clock, what your body is going to do is your body is going to release lots of gastric acid in your stomach, right? So if you say you eat every morning at 8 a.m., your body already assumes that it's going to eat at 8 a.m., So at 8 a.m., your stomach is going to have the most gastric acid necessary to digest your food. But if you start eating at irregular hours, then you have lower gastric acid levels. You start to suffer such as GERD, bloating, um, indigestion. Yes. So that's why it's very important to be very regular with our eating habits. And one thing that's very fascinating, first thing in the morning, your very first meal is when you have the most gastric acid levels, which means your first meal should be your largest. All right, so I'm going to give you an analogy. All right, we're going to be talking about a worker. So I was telling you how our bodies like to be on a schedule. We too, believe it or not, like to be on a schedule. So like if you go to work, you don't want a job that it's 9 to 5 one day, 10 to 8 the next day, and the next day you're working from 5 p.m. to 9 a.m., right? You don't want that. You want to have regularity, right? And so likewise, say you are working your 9 to 5 job, and your 9 to 5 job gives you a 1 hour break in between your, I guess you can say, your two parts of your one shift. So you work 4 hours, you take 1 hour break, and you finish off with your 4 hours. Now, say you work your first 4 hours and your boss comes up to you and says, hey, I got some more work to you. I'm sorry. This is no fail. This is very important. You won't be able to take your break today, but just get this thing done. You might be bothered by it, but you're going to do it anyways because that's your boss. Now, you work through your shift, and now you have to work through your second part of the day without your break. Now, once you're going to get off of work, your boss says, hey, there's just so much things that just came up, right? Again, this is no fail. I really need you to work overtime. And so you work overtime for a few hours, say 3 hours. And then once you're about to get off, it's like, I'm sorry, everybody caught off, and I just really need you. You're going to have to work double overtime. And so you become very irritated and very upset about it. Yes. And so you become very irritated, and it doesn't make you happy, right? So what does this symbolize? It symbolizes our stomach. Our stomach, when we eat food, it takes about, depending on what you eat, if it's plant-based, it takes anywhere between 3 to 4 hours to digest your food. If you eat meat, it increases upwards to 6 hours, right? Your stomach needs a break too, right? Between your meals especially. So just like how you like to have a break between your two parts of your one shift, your stomach needs at least a 1 hour break. So depending on what you're eating, just accommodate for that. Now, say you skip that 1 hour break by snacking, because you like to snack between your two meals. Your stomach has to work whether it's healthy or not, So there's no real such thing as a healthy break. Just like how in the analogy I gave you, say your boss comes up to you and say, this is a healthy job for you, It doesn't change the fact that you still have to work, right? And so that's what snacking does. It disrupts your circadian rhythm because it's trying to recognize and have the most gastric acid at certain levels. But if you're constantly eating, you're constantly having high levels of gastric acid. And likewise, towards the end of the day, when it's time to go to sleep, and when your boss says it's time for you to work overtime, that's when your body is trying to wind down and go to sleep. So you can kind of disrupt your circadian rhythm and your sleeping habits by eating late, because instead of winding down to sleep, now your body's trying to digest your food, right? So it's kind of like two competing requirements. So that's the analogy I normally like to give in regards to your stomach and work, Anyways, so some of the benefits when you are very consistent with your eating habits is, one, your digestion is much smoother. You actually have a larger appetite because what you do when you snack, you're suppressing your appetite, and so by the time it's time to eat, you're not as hungry, right? Whereas if that main meal, especially if it was healthy, you kind of just lost the opportunity to eat that healthy thing by snacking. And then also your energy levels are more predictable because Typically, when you eat, you do have like a little bit of a crash in energy levels, but if you're constantly eating, your energy levels are not that predictable. And so what happens when you eat outside your times? So your digestion becomes less efficient, like I was telling you with the GERD and indigestion. Your hunger signals are unstable. So you may or may not experience hunger correctly, the way that your body was designed. And you're a lot more likely to experience overeating. Now, I shared with you the importance of resting between your two meals. Um, so another thing I wanted to make mention was blood sugar levels, especially if you're diabetic, right? Uh, when you're eating, what your body does is try to release insulin, and your pancreas is the organ that releases the insulin. But if you're constantly eating, that means you're constantly making your pancreas work to make insulin. But if you're diabetic, your pancreas is already compromised and is not supposed to be working that much. So you need to help your body out by just simply having those two meals, avoid eating snacks as much as possible to actually bring forth the healing that your body needs, especially if you're diabetic. So one thing I like to share, like if you are, I do recommend the two meals. So say a good time if you eat at 8 a.m. The next time will be good to eat is around 1 or 2 p.m., right? But I would say if you are working really hard, you're always outside, you're sweating a lot, it's appropriate to have a third meal. But like how I said in the very beginning, your first meal needs to be the largest. Your second meal is the second largest, but by the time it's dinner time, that's time to wind down. So you shouldn't have such a large meal for your last meal. It needs to be very, very light. Now, I want to share with you two different studies that were done. The first study is that there was over 50,000 people who decided to have or to try different eating habits. The first one was they were on two meals, and the other one was they were eating whenever they want, essentially. Um, and by the end of the study, they found that this is over 7 years, by the way. They found lower body mass index with the first group and better weight stability. So that means there wasn't sudden changes in weight. It was constant, and they had lower body mass index. Whereas those who frequently ate meals with snacks, they had body mass index, higher body mass index, and they had irregular weight gain patterns. Now, the second study was very similar. It was still the two meals, but first it was in 1999, and it started off with two groups of mice, and they oddly found it strange that they had a mice that had two meals, and again, the other group they ate whenever they want. Now, they found at the end of that study that the first group who ate two meals, they had a 93% reduction in cancer. It was very interesting. And the second group, of course, they had a lot more cases of cancer. Now, this same group wanted to figure out why is that the case. So they did the experiment on humans, the same controlled group, two meals and eat whenever you want. And what they found that the humans that ate the two meals that had much higher levels of this compound called corticosteroids in their saliva, right? And this is a very anti-inflammatory compound. And if you're familiar with cancer and anatomy and physiology, you know that cancer is primarily developed because of inflammation. And so when you have your body generating lots of anti-inflammatory compounds, you're just going to have a natural resistance to some degree to cancer, right? And so that was very interesting. And by the end of the study, they found that the first group that was on two meals, they experienced less overall pain. They were to digest their food more appropriately, so they had more nutrition absorbed in their bodies. They had less asthma and less allergy. They had better memory. And this is my favorite part. They spent less money, obviously, because you're not buying as much food, right? You're just eating within those two appointed times. But anyways, last month, I mentioned that everyone has a source, right? You remember what I said, what my source was? The Bible, yeah, there you go. Yeah. Who knows best about our health than God? Right? So where did this concept of 2 meals a day, where did that come from? Well, again, I have my source. So I'm just going to briefly go to 1 Kings chapter 17. So in this story, this is, well, let me not say the name. Maybe I'll just tell you the story. But there was a person who was running away from somebody, and God had to provide for that one individual for about a year. And God fed him twice a day. And after that year, he went to a widow's house. And you know what was very fascinating? He actually ate plant-based foods after that. I'll share you this story. 1 Kings chapter 17, verses 4 through 7. It says, "And it shall be that thou shalt drink of the brook." So that's like a little wash that we have here, right? That's flowing, that's true. "And I have commanded the ravens to feed thee there." So he went and did according to the word of the Lord, for he went and dwelt by the brook Cherith, that is before Jordan. "And the ravens brought him bread and flesh in the morning, and bread and flesh in the evening, and he drank from the brook." Now, God could have appointed the ravens to come at any other time, but he chose twice a day. Yeah. And so what's fascinating is that God was trying to teach him the principles of self-control, regularity, and things of that nature. And as he was able to do that, he was actually able to go on a plant-based diet. So if you go to the widow's example, when he went to the widows after that 1 year, it says here in verse 14, it says, "For thus saith the Lord God of Israel, the barrel of meal," so they had a meal of some kind of grain of some sort, "and that shall not waste, neither shall their cruse of oil shall fail, until the day that the Lord send rain upon the earth." And she went and did according to the saying of Elijah. She and he and her house did eat many days, and the barrel of meal wasted not, neither was the cruse of oil fail, according to the word of the Lord, which spake by Elijah. So over a year, he had a meal of a grain of some sort with oil and water. So they had a very simple diet that not include flesh. So I find that very fascinating. God was trying to help Elijah out to have self-control. And at that time, you find out at the end of the story that he would actually become translated. He did not seek death, see death. There was a chariot that came down from heaven, and he took him, and he never saw death, which I thought was a very cool story. But anyways, so in conclusion, everyone has a source. My source, I find it to be very helpful, is the Bible. There's lots of principles of healing in the Bible, and so I know that God has our best interests. And so some of the things I will just make mention, or just a recap, or just some key habits that we can do, is that it's good for us to eat at consistent times, to avoid snacking altogether. Even if it's like a grape or two, right? We're still putting our stomach to digest, and it still takes the same time to digest that one thing, whether it's a little or a lot. You're still making your stomach digest. Allow, at least 1 hour of break between digestion. So again, depending on what you're eating, it could be 5 hours if it's plant-based. It can be 7 hours if you're eating the meat, right? Avoid eating late night as possible. And if you do eat at night, let it be very, very light. So that way you don't disrupt your sleeping habits. And we talked about circadian rhythm and how that regulates all aspects of your life. And the last point I'll close with this is that when the body knows when to expect nourishment, it functions more efficiently. All right, well, that was my health class for today. My wife is going to demonstrate to you a quinoa salad. I'm going to demonstrate my very secret recipe. It's called Sofrito. It's it's something that you put on everything, and it's what makes food taste good. And then I'll demonstrate Soy Curls, which has a very nice texture, very similar to meat. Rick was, he's a very heavy meat eater, and he's very anti-plant-based. But yes, he was surprised, exactly. he said it tastes just like it. It has a very nice texture. And so these are things that my wife and I are going to demonstrate for you today.
Yeah, and then we have our little helper, Hiram, as well. So I'm going to demonstrate the quinoa salad. So the first thing we want to do is we want to start with the quinoa. Quinoa is really good for you. It's an ancient grain. It's gluten-free. Just a minute. It's a complete protein, so it has all the amino acids that your body needs. It's good for a lot of things, and it has, let's see what it says here. It has iron, it has potassium. Yeah, so you can use this as a replacement for rice. You can use it as something you can use for like patties to make sandwiches and things like that. I also like to have it as a cereal. So in the morning, I just cook some quinoa, put a little bit of milk and some honey, and yeah, and that's all I do. So you would, yeah, or like an oatmeal. So what you would do is you would soak a half cup of quinoa, and then it's gonna double up after you soak it. You can sprout it if you want to, but you don't have to. And so after it's done soaking, you want to cook the quinoa in 1 cup of water. And you would add your 1 teaspoon of onion powder and a half teaspoon of garlic, and then, 1/4 teaspoon of garlic, and then 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And then you cook it like that for about 15 minutes. And then after that is when you would mix everything together. So here I have my 1 cup of quinoa after it's been cooked. And then, you want to do this part? Yeah. There you go. So put the whole thing in there. Put all of it in there. You can lift it up. Do that. Yay. He's going to be a cook someday. He likes to cook. Yeah, he has a little one too. He just doesn't like to wear it. And then we have, let's see, what's the next thing? 1/4 cup of green onion. So here's your green onion. Can you open this and then put it in there? Here you go. You just put it in there. Then we have 1 large radish sliced. I haven't. Are they really good?
They're good flavor. They're a little different. You should try them.
Okay, I'm gonna have to try them out. Yeah. Put them inside the bowl too. There you go. Okay. What's our next ingredient? Yellow bell pepper. Okay, how much of that? What does it say? 1/4 cup. Yeah. Then we have half romaine lettuce. Just throw it all in there. There you go. Okay. Put these. Okay. What's our next? Our next ingredient is 1 large avocado. Just put it in there. Yeah. And then we have 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. Here it is. And then what does it say? We just mix well. So we just mix them all together. Want to mix it? Mix it really well. You mixing it together. Thank you for helping. And that's pretty much it. It's a very simple recipe, and it's really good, healthy, lots of veggies in there.
Now, the quinoa is soaked. It's not cooked. It is.
It's cooked.
Okay, so
Mhm.
can you go over? I don't know if I missed it or what.
Yeah, so you would just get a half cup of uncooked quinoa, and then you would soak it overnight, and then in the morning when it's ready, you just cook it in 1 cup of water.
1 cup of quinoa, 1 cup of water,
Yes.
or half a cup of quinoa.
Yeah, you start it with half a cup
Okay,
and 1 cup of water.
and you just simmer it a little until it.
Yeah, you just
soaks it up.
Yep.
Takes it up.
Yeah, you boil it at first and then you simmer it for 15 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, just like rice.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. It's just missing tomatoes, but I did make the one that has tomatoes in it, so I'll show you guys the finished product. You want to put it in the camera.
So is that result of this?
All right, so this next recipe is sofrito, and this is something that I put in almost everything. I put it in my rice, I put it in my soy curls, anything that you want to have a good savory flavor, a soup of some sort, I make a sofrito and I put it in there. And it's what gives a lot of flavor. So this is actually something that is traditional for me because I'm from Puerto Rico. This is something that we do all the time for all of our meals. And so, unfortunately, here in the United States, there's some ingredients that is not here. But what I do have emulates the flavor pretty close to it. So,
Will you tell us what it is when you get to it?
I'm sorry?
Will you tell us what it is that you can't hear the.
Oh, yes.
I'm just sitting here.
Yeah, so it's so you have this herb, it's cilantro, right? So cilantro is going to be used here and is used in the original recipe. Now there's another herb that's pronounced very similar. It's culantro. Yeah, see, yeah. But it looks a little different. It's a little bit more spiky, and it has a very strong odor, like how the cilantro has a very strong odor. I've seen them in Florida, but not anywhere here in Arizona. Another one, there's a sweet pepper of some that is only in South Florida and Puerto Rico. So those are the two ones that are missing. But even without those, you still get a good flavor with this with what we have here. So you're gonna need a blender to make the sofrito. Now, I like to do first is cut the vegetables in a way that the blender can handle it very easily. Because if you just put it big, it's going to clunk up. So you really want them cut small. Now, the other principle for blending is that you really want to put things that has the most liquid, essentially, that's very easy to blend. So you wouldn't want to put the cilantro first because it's just going to spin all day, right? So you want to put, for me, the most, the easiest one will be the onion. So I'm going to put the onion first. And how much onion do I add here? 1 onion. Around it. Okay. I forgot the garlic. You think you can grab the garlic from the bag, from the fridge? Now the next ingredient is garlic, but I left that in the fridge. My wife is getting it now. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the bell pepper in. So normally I add, typically the best one you'd want to do is the red bell pepper, but you can use whatever you have. You want to do it?
There we go. There we go.
The next one is going to be cilantro. When you get cilantro, you get it in the bunch, you have a rubber band. Make sure you take the rubber band off and don't blend the rubber band with the blender. I've had that happen, done before. Hold on, we got to take the rubber band off. And then my wife is now coming with the garlic. So these ones are already pre-peeled, just for time's sake. But we normally do the regular, just raw, and we just peel it ourselves. Hold on, man. All right, look. Here, go ahead.
You trained them well.
More garlic, more better.
Yes, it's one garlic head, not one garlic clove. And now what's optional is salt and olive oil. Depends if you need to preserve it for a longer period of time. The olive oil and the salt helps preserve it longer. But just since I'm using all right now, I'm not gonna put those ingredients. And now you blend. This is what I put on everything. I'm just going to quickly pass it around so you can smell it. Now, soy curls is something that I found on the internet, and it's just soy. That's all it is, one ingredient. But it's dehydrated. And so it has a very nice texture.
And it's the same product as tofu.
Yeah, well, tofu curls the bean from the soybean, whereas this is the actual soy, yeah. It is actually. Can you pass it? Can you pass that around, please? The other options, because I was telling Chris, is that she doesn't have a refrigerator. So another option instead of the soy curls, you can do walnuts. So
Where do you get that?
you can only get them really on Amazon or Asia Standard if you're familiar with Asia Standard. It's an online bulk, kind of like Costco, but for online. Mm. No, it's Asian, maybe. They do have a lot of soy products in the Asian markets. Yeah. So, like I was saying, if you don't want to use this, you can also use the walnuts. Like I was telling Chris, you just soak the walnuts 12 hours, and it has a very nice chewy texture. You drain the water, and just use that as if it's ground beef, right? Or the third option is tofu. So here's the tofu. I'm just gonna have Hiram pass one around. Here you go. Can you pass that around for people? Oh. So you don't. So it's flavorless. I didn't season that at all, but just feel the texture. It has a very nice chewy texture. So that's another option if you don't want to use the soy curl. So you have three options essentially. Now, so the very first thing you want to do, if it's the soy curls, what you want to do is soak this for about 10 minutes because it's dehydrated. So when you put water, it's just going to soak up all the water. So here I already have some soaked. So what you want to do here is after you soak it for about 10 minutes, that's why you have to wash your hands. You have to just grab it and you squeeze it to take all the excess liquid out, right? And then you put it on like a baking sheet or air fryer, and it should look like that, right? Yeah, you can do that too, yes. But yeah, the point is that you want to strain out all the excess liquid. Yeah. Now, after you do that, you put it on. So it depends. If you're going to air fry it, you put it on the tray. If you're going to bake it, you just put it on the tray. But nonetheless, after you squeeze it, you put it on some kind of tray of some sort to bake it or air fry. Now, you put it in the air fryer unseasoned because what you want to do is get the meaty flavor. It's going to be a little too soggy if you just leave it as is and cook it. So you just let it, so if it's an air fryer, it's 12 minutes for 400 degrees on both sides. Or you can bake for 20 minutes for 420 degrees on both sides. Okay, so now that is nice and crunchy. It should look like this. Can you pass that around? Let's get down. Oh. So now that you have your soy curls, you want to treat it separately for a moment. Because now all the other ingredients you want to put in a bowl or, not yet, right? You want to put in a bowl so that way you can mix it around thoroughly. So the first one you're going to see is 1 cup of sofrito, right? So I'm just going to put just about a cup. All right. Then what's next? Hold on. The salt, right?
Yeah. Yeah, teaspoon of salt.
What's next?
Half a quart teaspoon of cumin.
Got the cumin. And then what's next? Thyme. Thyme has a very nice meaty flavor. And then I had to, so there's one that's optional is 1/4 cup of coconut aminos. I actually ran out, so I can't show you that, but that's something I normally add as well. So it's a replacement for like soy sauce, but it's more sweeter and it's not soy based because the soy sauce tends to have MSGs in it, whereas the coconut amino does not. Yeah. And then what's the last one?
The 1 lemon squeeze, please.
Yep. There you go. So now that you have all the ingredients together, then you mix everything. And you stir it nicely. You just stir it around. And so this is pretty much a final product. Now what you're going to do is first you're going to add the soy curls into the pan. Ooh, it's hot. All right, put the soy curls in there. There you go. And now you add your mix all together. And after you do that, now you just stir everything around. Ooh, I didn't bring the, I'll just use the spoon. So what you want to do is make sure that the soy curls is mixed around nicely because you want it to absorb all the sofrito and all the other things you added.
The heat does something to the flavor, doesn't it?
Yes. Enhances, yeah. I don't understand it, but yeah. So this is how it looks like so far, but you just want to keep cooking it for about 5 to 10 more minutes. But just for the sake of this demonstration, I'm just gonna leave it cooking here, but that's pretty much it. And then now we can actually eat some of the foods that we cooked. Thank you for coming. Yes. Before we eat, we're going to say a word of prayer. Would you like to pray for us?
Yeah, please help we food. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. All righty. Time to eat.